When we hear the term spiritual awakening, many of us imagine a state of ultimate peace, a serene escape from the chaos of life, a place where all pain dissolves, and we finally bask in the glow of enlightenment. Sounds like a dream, doesn't it? A vision of liberation that stirs something deep within us. But have you ever stopped to wonder, what is awakening, really? And what lies beneath the dazzling promise of this transformation? In today's world, messages about awakening are everywhere. Books, seminars, and online courses assure us that we just need to raise our frequency or align with our higher self, and all our suffering will vanish. It's an alluring idea, a shortcut to bliss, an escape from the struggles of being human. But here's the truth. Awakening is not a magic trick that erases our pain. It's not a path that bypasses the messiness of life. Awakening is, instead, an invitation, a courageous call to turn inward and face ourselves fully. It is a journey that requires walking not just into the light, but into the deepest shadows of our own soul. Think about it. Have you ever felt like you're caught in the relentless currents of life, chasing goals, meeting expectations, fulfilling roles until you lose sight of who you truly are? There are moments, perhaps fleeting, where you might pause and feel a stirring question in your heart. Who am I beneath all this? And yet, the answer often feels out of reach, buried beneath layers of busyness, fear, and avoidance. Awakening is the process of peeling back those layers. It is a journey not of escape, but of encounter. And in that encounter, we don't just meet the light of our highest potential. We also confront the shadows we've long avoided, those parts of ourselves we've hidden, denied, or repressed. The uncomfortable truth is that the path to awakening demands something profound, a willingness to embrace the totality of our being. Light and dark, joy and pain, strength and vulnerability. This may sound daunting, even unsettling. After all, aren't we supposed to feel uplifted by the idea of awakening? But herein lies the paradox. It is in facing our shadows that we discover the light. True awakening is not about fleeing from the difficult truths of our existence, but learning to hold them with compassion. It's about dismantling the illusions we've built to protect ourselves and stepping into the raw, unfiltered reality of who we are. Throughout history, spiritual traditions across cultures have pointed to this dual nature of awakening. The Buddha's path to enlightenment began with a confrontation of suffering, the recognition of life's inherent pain and impermanence. Similarly, in Christian mysticism, Saint John of the Cross described the dark night of the soul as a necessary passage on the way to divine union. These teachings remind us that awakening is not a linear ascent into bliss, but a cyclical journey of descent and return, a dance between light and shadow, between death and rebirth. In today's fast-paced world, this deeper understanding of awakening often gets lost. We're drawn to the idea of instant transformation, of quick fixes that promise relief without effort. But the truth is that awakening is work. It's a process of stripping away the illusions of who we think we are, so we can step into the fullness of who we're meant to be. And while this process can be challenging, it is also profoundly liberating. So, what does this journey look like in practice? It begins with a simple, yet powerful, shift: the willingness to see ourselves as we truly are. This means acknowledging not only our strengths and virtues, but also the aspects we'd rather ignore, our fears, insecurities, and unhealed wounds. It means recognizing that our shadows are not enemies to be vanquished, but teachers to be embraced. For within those shadows lies the key to our transformation. Take a moment to reflect. What parts of yourself do you avoid? Perhaps it's anger, shame, or a deep-seated fear of not being enough. Perhaps it's a longing for connection that feels too vulnerable to express. These shadows may feel heavy, even overwhelming, but they hold a hidden power. By bringing them into the light of awareness, we reclaim the energy we've spent suppressing them. We begin to integrate the fragmented pieces of ourselves and move toward wholeness. This is not a journey to undertake lightly, but neither is it one to fear. Awakening is, at its core, an act of love, a return to the truth of who we are. In all our complexity, it is a journey that asks us to be both brave and gentle, to face our darkness with courage and our light with humility. And as we walk this path, we come to see that awakening is not an endpoint but an ongoing process, a continuous unfolding of deeper truths and greater clarity. To those who feel the call to awaken, know this: you are not alone. This journey is shared by countless seekers across time and space, each navigating their own unique path. Together, we are part of something much greater than ourselves, a collective awakening that holds the potential to transform not just individual lives but the world as a whole. As we embark on this exploration of awakening, its challenges, its beauty, its paradoxes, let us approach it with open hearts and curious minds. Let us honor the light and the shadow within, knowing that both are essential to our growth. And above all, let us remember that awakening is not about perfection. It is about presence. It is not about escaping the human experience but embracing it fully, with all its messiness and magnificence. Welcome to the journey of awakening, a path not of escape, but of transformation, a path where the light and the shadow meet, and where, in their union, we discover the truth of who we are. As we step onto the path of awakening, we carry with us the hope of a brighter existence, a life free from the burdens of pain, fear, and confusion. The promises of peace and transcendence are compelling. Yet the reality of this journey is far more nuanced. Awakening is not a final destination where all problems vanish. Rather, it is an ongoing process of deep self-discovery and integration. To truly awaken, we must first come to terms with the duality of our existence, the interplay of light and shadow within us. For many, the idea of awakening is synonymous with stepping into the light. This is not surprising, after all. Light represents clarity, warmth, and understanding. It is in the light that we find our higher purpose, our connection to the universe, and the sense of peace we so deeply crave. The light is where we experience moments of profound insight, a sudden understanding of life's interconnectedness, or the recognition that love is the foundation of all things. These moments are transformative. They fill us with hope and fuel our desire to keep moving forward. The light reveals the beauty of existence and the infinite potential within us, encouraging us to shed the layers of conditioning and fear that have clouded our vision. Yet, while the light offers comfort and inspiration, it is not the whole picture. Hidden beneath the surface of our awareness lies the shadow, the parts of ourselves we've disowned, suppressed, or denied. These are the traits, memories, and emotions that don't align with the image we wish to project to the world or even to ourselves. Envy, anger, shame, fear, resentment, all these reside in the shadow, waiting to be acknowledged. For many, the shadow feels like an unwelcome intruder on the spiritual journey. After all, if awakening is about moving toward the light, why should we bother with the darkness? But here lies the paradox. The light cannot fully illuminate our path until we confront the shadow. Ignoring it doesn't make it disappear. It only ensures that it will manifest in subtler, more disruptive ways. Consider the relationships in your life. Have you ever felt an intense reaction, whether anger, fear, or even infatuation toward someone, only to later realize that their behavior mirrored something within you? This is what Carl Jung called projection. The shadow doesn't vanish when ignored. Instead, it is projected onto others, influencing how we perceive and interact with the world. Awakening invites us to reclaim these projections, to recognize that what we see in others is often a reflection of what we have hidden within ourselves. It asks us to look in the mirror with honesty and compassion, to see not just the light but the shadow as well. The journey of awakening is not a choice between light and shadow. It is the dance between the two. This dance is what makes us whole. The light guides us, illuminating our highest potential and reminding us of the beauty inherent in existence. The shadow grounds us, connecting us to the raw, unfiltered truth of who we are. Imagine a candle in a dark room. The flame brings warmth and visibility, but it also casts shadows. Without the shadow, we would not see the depth or texture of the room. It is the contrast that creates meaning. Similarly, in our own lives, the interplay of light and shadow reveals the complexity of our humanity. To deny the shadow is to deny a part of ourselves, to live in a state of fragmentation rather than integration. Throughout history, spiritual traditions have recognized the duality inherent in awakening. In Buddhism, the concept of dukkha, the suffering that arises from attachment and ignorance, forms the foundation of the Four Noble Truths. The Buddha's enlightenment was not a rejection of suffering but a deep understanding of it. By facing the reality of dukkha, he discovered the path to liberation. Similarly, in Hinduism, the deity Shiva embodies both creation and destruction. Light and shadow, his dance, the Tandava, represents the cyclical nature of existence, the constant interplay of birth, death, and rebirth. This symbolism reminds us that transformation requires both the embrace of light and the acknowledgement of shadow. In Western traditions, St. John of the Cross wrote about the dark night of the soul, a period of profound spiritual desolation that ultimately leads to greater union with the divine. This dark night is not a punishment but a necessary stage of growth, stripping away illusions and attachments to reveal a deeper truth. These teachings remind us that the shadow is not an obstacle to awakening but an integral part of the journey. The process of facing our darkness, though uncomfortable, is what allows us to step fully into the light. Practical steps for embracing the shadow: self-reflection and awareness. Begin by observing your thoughts and emotions without judgment. Notice moments when you feel triggered or reactive. Ask yourself, what is this reaction revealing about me? Journaling. Writing can be a powerful tool for exploring the shadow. Reflect on questions such as, what parts of myself do I find difficult to accept? Are there patterns in my relationships that mirror unresolved issues within me? Mindfulness practices. Meditation creates a safe space to observe the mind. Practices like loving-kindness meditation can help you approach the shadow with compassion rather than resistance. Therapeutic support. Shadow work can be challenging, especially when it touches on deep wounds. Therapists or counselors trained in Jungian psychology or inner child work can provide guidance and support. Embracing triggers as teachers. The people and situations that challenge us the most are often mirrors of our shadow. Instead of blaming or avoiding, view these moments as opportunities for growth. Integration. Embracing the shadow doesn't mean acting out its darker impulses. Instead, it means acknowledging these aspects of yourself, understanding their origins, and finding healthier ways to express your needs and emotions. The dance of light and shadow is not confined to meditation cushions or retreat centers. It plays out in the midst of everyday life. Awakening is as much about navigating the messiness of human relationships as it is about experiencing transcendent moments of clarity. In the workplace, notice how competition or frustration with colleagues might reveal insecurities or unmet needs within yourself. Use these moments as opportunities for self-inquiry and growth. In relationships, pay attention to recurring conflicts. What do they say about your own patterns and wounds? How can you approach these dynamics with greater awareness and compassion? In solitude, take time to reflect on the stories you tell yourself about who you are. Are they rooted in truth? Or are they defenses constructed to avoid vulnerability? Ultimately, the duality of awakening is what makes it transformative. By embracing both light and shadow, we move closer to wholeness, not a perfect, idealized version of ourselves, but a full, authentic one. This wholeness is not static. It evolves as we continue to uncover new layers of ourselves. When we accept the shadow, we reclaim the energy we've spent hiding it. We become more compassionate, not only toward ourselves but toward others. We see that everyone is navigating their own dance of light and shadow, and this understanding deepens our connection to the world. As we embark on this journey, let us remember that awakening is not about choosing one over the other. It is about holding both, the brilliance of the light and the mystery of the shadow, with equal reverence. For in doing so, we discover the richness of what it means to be truly alive. In the journey of awakening, we encounter a profound paradox. To discover our true nature, we must confront and dismantle the false self we have constructed over a lifetime. This false self, the ego, is both our greatest protector and our most persistent obstacle. Like a mask, it shields us from vulnerability but also prevents us from experiencing the depth and authenticity of life. As we move forward from embracing the interplay of light and shadow, the next step on the path of awakening is understanding the ego. The ego is not inherently bad or something to be destroyed. It is a natural part of our psychological structure. However, when left unchecked, it creates illusions that keep us trapped in cycles of fear, attachment, and resistance. To awaken, we must learn to see through these illusions. What is the ego? The ego is the part of us that constructs our identity. It defines who we think we are in relation to the world. It clings to labels, roles, and accomplishments, building a sense of self based on external validation and internal narratives. For instance, I am successful because of my career. I am a good person because I help others. I am unworthy because of my past failures. These statements may feel true, but they are not the essence of who we are. They are stories the ego tells to give us a sense of stability and importance. The ego's primary goal is survival, not just physical survival, but the survival of its identity. It resists anything that threatens its carefully constructed image, even if that resistance prevents us from growing or connecting with others. The ego as an illusion. While the ego feels solid and real, it is, at its core, an illusion. It is a mental construct that depends on external factors to sustain itself. When those factors shift, a job loss, a failed relationship, a criticism, the ego reacts with fear, anger, or despair. These reactions reveal the fragility of the ego's foundation. Key insight: the ego thrives on separation. It defines itself by what it is not. It says, I am this, not that, creating a divide between me and others. This sense of separation fuels comparison, competition, and judgment. The illusion of separation is perhaps the ego's most significant barrier to awakening. Spiritual traditions worldwide emphasize the interconnectedness of all life. In Buddhism, this is expressed through the concept of anatta, non-self, which teaches that the self is not an independent entity but a part of a larger, ever-changing whole. Similarly, Hindu philosophy speaks of Maya, illusion, which veils the true nature of reality and keeps us attached to the ego. To awaken, we must see through the ego's illusions and recognize the interconnectedness of all things. This requires not only intellectual understanding but also direct experience, a shift in perception that comes from deep inner work. How the ego sabotages awakening. The ego resists awakening because it perceives the process as a threat. Awakening involves surrender, letting go of attachments, roles, and beliefs that define our identity. To the ego, this feels like annihilation. Here are some ways the ego sabotages our spiritual journey. Spiritual superiority. The ego can co-opt spirituality, turning it into a means of self-aggrandizement. For example, someone might think, I am more awakened than others, or my spiritual path is the right one. This attitude creates division and undermines the humility needed for true growth. Fear of vulnerability. The ego fears being exposed. It avoids self-reflection and shadow work because these practices reveal the parts of ourselves we'd rather not see. Clinging to certainty. Awakening often involves stepping into the unknown, questioning deeply held beliefs, and embracing uncertainty. The ego, however, clings to familiar narratives, even if they cause suffering. Defensiveness. When confronted with criticism or challenges, the ego reacts defensively, interpreting these as threats to its identity. This resistance blocks the opportunity for growth and self-awareness. Unmasking the ego. Unmasking the ego is not about destroying it but understanding its mechanisms and loosening its grip on our consciousness. This process requires patience, self-awareness, and consistent practice. Cultivating self-awareness. Begin by observing your thoughts and emotions. Notice how often your reactions are driven by a need to protect or validate your identity. For example, do you feel upset when someone disagrees with you? Why? Do you seek validation through achievements or social approval? Practicing detachment. Detachment doesn't mean indifference. It means recognizing that your worth is not tied to external circumstances or internal narratives. When you experience success, enjoy it without becoming attached. When you face failure, learn from it without identifying with it. Embracing vulnerability. Vulnerability is the antidote to the ego's defenses. It allows us to connect authentically with ourselves and others. Sharing your struggles, admitting your mistakes, and asking for help are acts of courage that weaken the ego's hold. Engaging in service. Acts of service shift the focus from me to we. By helping others without expecting anything in return, you challenge the ego's need for recognition and validation. Spiritual traditions offer profound insights into the nature of the ego and its role in the awakening process. Buddhism. The concept of anatta challenges the very notion of a fixed self. The Buddha taught that clinging to the idea of I and mine is the root of suffering. Meditation practices like mindfulness and vipassana help practitioners observe the impermanence of thoughts and identities. Loosening the ego's grip. Christian mysticism. St. Augustine wrote extensively about the importance of humility in the spiritual journey. He recognized that self-knowledge, seeing our flaws and limitations, leads to a deeper connection with the divine. Hinduism. The Bhagavad Gita speaks of surrendering the ego to the will of the divine. Krishna advises Arjuna to act selflessly, without attachment to the fruits of his actions. As a means of transcending the ego, awakening doesn't happen in isolation. It unfolds in the midst of daily life. By observing how the ego operates in our interactions and decisions, we can begin to disidentify from it. In relationships, notice when conflicts arise. Are you defending your ego or seeking understanding? For example, in an argument, the ego might push you to win rather than resolve the issue. Practice active listening and empathy instead. In social media often amplifies the ego's need for validation. Pay attention to how often you seek likes, comments, or approval online. Reflect on whether your posts reflect authenticity or a curated image of yourself. In decision-making, the ego often prioritizes short-term gratification or external recognition over long-term growth and integrity. Before making a decision, ask yourself, is this choice aligned with my true values, or is it driven by ego? As we unmask the ego, we begin to experience a profound sense of freedom. This freedom doesn't mean the ego disappears. It means we are no longer ruled by it. We can see the ego for what it is, a tool rather than our true essence. Imagine a river that has been dammed for years. The ego is like that dam, restricting the flow of our authentic selves. When the dam is removed, the river flows freely, carrying with it the full richness of life. This is what awakening offers, a return to our natural state of being, unburdened by the illusions of the ego. In this freedom, we discover the truth of interconnectedness. We see that we are not separate from the world but an integral part of it. This realization transforms how we relate to ourselves, others, and the universe. It is here, beyond the ego, that the journey of awakening truly begins. As we step beyond the illusions of the ego and begin to dismantle its hold on our lives, we often encounter one of the most challenging stages on the journey of awakening, the dark night of the soul. This phase, though often misunderstood as despair or failure, is a profound and necessary passage. It strips us of illusions, dismantles our attachments, and prepares us for a deeper understanding of who we truly are. Building on our exploration of the ego, the dark night of the soul is where we confront what remains after the mask is removed. Without the ego's comforting illusions, we are left to face the raw reality of existence. This stage feels like walking through an endless abyss, a time of confusion, loneliness, and doubt. Yet, It is within this darkness that the seeds of transformation are sown. What is the dark night of the soul? Coined by Saint John of the Cross, a Spanish mystic and poet, the dark night of the soul describes a period of profound spiritual crisis. It is a time when the familiar anchors of life, beliefs, identities, and external validations begin to dissolve. This dissolution leaves us feeling lost, as though the very ground beneath us has disappeared. Key insight: the dark night of the soul is not punishment or failure. It is a process of purification. It burns away the attachments and illusions that keep us from fully awakening. Unlike ordinary suffering, which often stems from external circumstances, the dark night arises from within. It is the soul's call to shed the layers that no longer serve us and step into a higher level of consciousness. However, this process can feel excruciating because it challenges everything we've relied on for a sense of identity and stability. The emotional terrain of the dark night: loneliness and isolation. In the dark night, we may feel disconnected from others and even from ourselves. This isolation is not a punishment but an invitation to turn inward and seek solace within. Doubt and confusion. Long-held beliefs and certainties begin to crumble, leaving us questioning our purpose and path. This uncertainty can feel disorienting, but it is a necessary step toward clarity. Emptiness. As the ego's attachments dissolve, we may feel a void where our previous identities once stood. This emptiness is not a loss but a space for something new to emerge. Yearning for meaning. Amid the darkness, there is a deep, unrelenting desire to find meaning and connection. This yearning is the soul's way of guiding us toward the light. The purpose of the dark night. The dark night of the soul serves a profound purpose: transformation. Just as a caterpillar dissolves in its cocoon before becoming a butterfly, we too must undergo a period of dissolution before we can emerge as our authentic selves. Key insight: transformation requires surrender. In the dark night, we learn to let go of control and trust the process, even when we cannot see the path ahead. This surrender is not passive resignation but an active choice to release resistance. It is a willingness to sit with discomfort, to feel the depths of our emotions, and to allow the old self to fall away. In doing so, we create space for a new way of being to emerge. The dark night of the soul is not unique to Western mysticism. Many spiritual traditions recognize this transformative phase. Buddhism, the Great Doubt. In Zen Buddhism, practitioners often face what is called the Great Doubt, a crisis of faith that arises during deep meditation. This doubt, though unsettling, is seen as a gateway to enlightenment. Hinduism, the churning of the ocean. In Hindu mythology, the Samudra Manthan, churning of the ocean, symbolizes the process of transformation. The gods and demons churn the ocean to obtain the nectar of immortality. But before they reach it, they must first face poison. This story mirrors the dark night, where we confront our inner poison before attaining spiritual clarity. Sufism, the desert of the heart. Sufi mystics speak of a journey through the desert of the heart, where seekers experience profound longing and emptiness. This stage purifies the heart, preparing it for union with the divine. Practical steps for navigating the dark night. Acceptance. Resisting the darkness only prolongs the suffering. Instead, embrace it as part of your journey. Recognize that this phase, though painful, is temporary and purposeful. Cultivating stillness. In the midst of chaos, stillness becomes a sanctuary. Practices like meditation, deep breathing, or spending time in nature can help ground you in the present moment. Seeking support. While the dark night feels isolating, you are not alone. Reach out to trusted friends, mentors, or spiritual guides who can hold space for you without judgment. Journaling. Writing can be a powerful way to process emotions and gain insight. Reflect on questions such as, what am I being asked to let go of? What lessons can I learn from this experience? How can I trust the unfolding of this process? Honoring the journey. Celebrate small moments of clarity or peace. Even amid the darkness, These glimpses of light remind you that transformation is unfolding, even when it is not yet visible. Emerging from the dark night of the soul does not mean that life's challenges disappear. Rather, it means that we have developed a new way of relating to those challenges. We become less reactive, more compassionate, and more attuned to the present moment. Here are some key lessons that often arise from this transformative phase. Resilience. The dark night teaches us that we are stronger than we realize. By facing our fears and doubts, we build inner strength and confidence. Authenticity. Stripped of the ego's masks, we are free to live as our true selves. This authenticity deepens our relationships and enhances our sense of purpose. Interconnectedness. The dark night dissolves the illusion of separation, helping us see our connection to all of life. This realization fosters empathy and a sense of belonging. Gratitude. Having faced the depths of darkness, we gain a profound appreciation for the light. Everyday moments of beauty and joy take on new significance. The dark night of the soul is not confined to monasteries or mystical traditions. It can arise in the midst of everyday life during a career change, the end of a relationship, or a personal crisis. By approaching these moments with awareness, we can transform them into opportunities for growth. In career transitions, losing a job or changing careers can feel like an identity crisis. Use this time to reflect on your true passions and values. What kind of work aligns with your authentic self? In relationships, breakups or conflicts often trigger a dark night. Instead of focusing solely on the other person, look inward. What patterns or wounds are being revealed, and how can you heal them? In everyday challenges, even small setbacks can be invitations to grow. When faced with frustration or disappointment, ask yourself, what is this teaching me about myself? As we emerge from the dark night of the soul, we carry with us the wisdom and strength gained from our time in the abyss. This rebirth is not about returning to who we were before. It is about stepping into a more expansive version of ourselves. We come to see that the darkness was not an enemy but a guide, leading us to the light of greater self-awareness and connection. The journey through the dark night is one of profound transformation. It strips us of illusions and prepares us to live with greater authenticity, compassion, and purpose. Though the path may be difficult, it ultimately leads to a deeper sense of peace and fulfillment. Let us remember that the darkness, like the light, is an essential part of the awakening process. Together, they create the richness and depth of our human experience. As we embrace both, we move closer to the truth of who we are: whole, interconnected, and endlessly evolving. Emerging from the dark night of the soul, many experience a profound sense of clarity and connection. The burdens of ego and illusion begin to lift, and with this lightness comes a deeper understanding of life's interconnectedness. However, as we settle into this newfound awareness, a subtle danger often arises: the trap of spiritual superiority. Building on the lessons of humility and surrender learned during the dark night, this phase of awakening challenges us to integrate those lessons into how we relate to others. It is here that we face one of the final barriers to true spiritual freedom: the ego's attempt to reassert itself through a more insidious form of control. Though the dark night may have quieted the ego's overt tendencies, it rarely disappears entirely. Instead, it often reemerges, wearing a new disguise, that of the enlightened self. This is a subtle and dangerous transformation, where the ego cloaks itself in spirituality, using newfound insights to assert superiority over others. Key insight: the ego's need for validation does not vanish with awakening. It evolves. Instead of clinging to material status or external achievements, it now seeks to define itself through spiritual accomplishments. Consider statements like, "I'm more awakened than others," "My path is the right one," and "Others are misguided," "I have reached a higher level of consciousness." These thoughts may seem harmless at first, but they reveal the ego's attempt to turn spirituality into a status symbol. This trap is not only divisive but also counterproductive. It separates us from others, fostering judgment rather than compassion. The harmful impact of spiritual superiority, judgment and exclusion. When we see ourselves as more advanced or evolved than others, we risk alienating those who are on different stages of their journey. This judgment creates barriers rather than bridges, undermining the interconnectedness that true spirituality seeks to cultivate. Stagnation. Believing we have arrived at enlightenment halts our growth. Awakening is a continuous process, but spiritual superiority creates the illusion of completion, preventing us from exploring deeper layers of ourselves. Loss of authenticity. The pursuit of superiority often leads to performative spirituality, where appearances and external validation take precedence over genuine inner work. This performance distances us from our authentic selves. Across spiritual traditions, there are cautionary tales about the dangers of pride and arrogance on the spiritual path. Buddhism, the poison of conceit. In Buddhism, mana, conceit, is one of the 10 fetters that bind us to the cycle of suffering. Even the belief that one is better or more awakened than others is seen as a form of attachment that must be overcome. Christianity, the parable of the Pharisee. In the Gospel of Luke, Jesus tells the parable of the Pharisee and the tax collector. The Pharisee, confident in his righteousness, looks down on others, while the tax collector humbly acknowledges his flaws. Jesus emphasizes that true spirituality lies in humility, not self-exaltation. Hinduism, the ego's subtle grip. The Bhagavad Gita warns against the ego's tendency to claim credit for spiritual progress. Krishna reminds Arjuna that all actions and achievements are part of the divine flow, not personal accomplishments. How to avoid the trap of spiritual superiority. Practice humility. True humility is not about devaluing yourself, but about recognizing the shared nature of the human experience. It is the understanding that we are all learners on this path, each facing unique challenges and lessons. Engage in service. Acts of service shift the focus from self to others. Whether it's volunteering, mentoring, or simply offering kindness, service reminds us that spirituality is not about personal gain but collective upliftment. Foster curiosity. Instead of judging others, approach them with curiosity. Ask questions. Seek to understand their perspectives, and celebrate the diversity of paths that lead to awakening. Reflect on your motivations. Regularly examine your thoughts and actions. Are you seeking validation through your spiritual identity? Are you using spirituality to separate yourself from others or to connect more deeply? Cultivate gratitude. Gratitude grounds us in the present moment and reminds us of the interconnectedness of all life. By appreciating the contributions of others, we dissolve the barriers created by superiority. Modern applications. Overcoming superiority in daily life. In conversations, avoid turning discussions about spirituality into debates or competitions. Instead, focus on sharing experiences and learning from others. On social media, be mindful of how you present your spiritual journey online. Are your posts meant to inspire and connect, or are they subtly seeking validation or admiration? In relationships, recognize that everyone is on their own path. Approach disagreements or differences in beliefs with empathy rather than judgment. The antidote to spiritual superiority is connection. When we see ourselves as part of a larger whole, the need to compare or compete fades. Instead, we recognize that each person's journey is a vital thread in the tapestry of existence. Connection also deepens our understanding of compassion. True spirituality is not about escaping the world but engaging with it fully. It is about being present with others, offering support, and seeing the divine in everyone and everything. Lessons in service and humility. The Buddha's example. After attaining enlightenment, the Buddha did not isolate himself from the world. Instead, he dedicated his life to teaching and serving others, recognizing that his awakening was incomplete without sharing it. Mother Teresa's life. Mother Teresa's spirituality was grounded in humility and service. She saw the face of God in the poor and the suffering, reminding us that spirituality is expressed through love and compassion. Modern stories of service. Consider figures like the Dalai Lama, who consistently emphasizes kindness and humility, or community leaders who quietly work to uplift those around them. Their examples show that true awakening is measured not by status but by the depth of one's service to others. The freedom of letting go. When we release the need to be better or more awakened than others, we experience a profound sense of freedom. This freedom allows us to celebrate the unique paths of others without comparison, focus on our own growth without seeking external validation, embrace the shared humanity that unites us all. As we let go of superiority, we open ourselves to a deeper kind of awakening, one rooted in humility, service, and love. This is where the journey truly begins to bear fruit, transforming not just our inner world but the world around us. As we come to the close of this exploration into spiritual awakening, one truth becomes unmistakably clear. Awakening is not a destination but a journey, one of perpetual discovery, transformation, and integration. It is a path that invites us to embrace all aspects of our humanity, to see life not as a series of problems to solve but as an intricate dance of light and shadow, joy and sorrow, self and other. Awakening does not promise an escape from life's challenges. Instead, it offers something far more profound: the ability to meet those challenges with grace, clarity, and compassion. It is not about transcending our humanity but fully inhabiting it, with all its messiness and magnificence. When we began this journey, we might have imagined awakening as a process of becoming something more enlightened, more peaceful, more complete. But as we walk the path, we come to realize that awakening is not about becoming anything. It is about returning to what we have always been. Beneath the layers of conditioning, ego, and fear lies the essence of who we are: whole, interconnected, and deeply alive. This return to wholeness is not a linear process. It is cyclical and ever-evolving. Each moment of clarity is followed by new challenges, each descent into darkness by a greater understanding of the light. Awakening is a spiral, drawing us deeper into ourselves with each turn, revealing new layers of truth and new opportunities for growth. The question then becomes, how do we live as awakened beings in a world that often feels chaotic and divided? The answer lies not in perfection but in presence. To be awakened is not to have all the answers but to approach life with openness, curiosity, and humility. It is to recognize that every moment, no matter how ordinary, holds the potential for transformation. Embrace imperfection. Awakening is not about eliminating flaws but embracing them as part of our humanity. When we accept our imperfections, we create space for growth and compassion, not just for ourselves but for others as well. Be fully present. In a world that constantly pulls us toward distraction, presence is a radical act. Whether it's in a conversation with a loved one, a quiet moment in nature, or the simple act of breathing, presence allows us to experience life in its fullness. Cultivate compassion. Awakening deepens our empathy for others. We begin to see that everyone is navigating their own journey, with their own shadows and struggles. This understanding fosters kindness and connection, dissolving the barriers that separate us. Serve with humility. True awakening finds its expression in service. By using our gifts and insights to uplift others, we contribute to a collective awakening that transcends individual gain. One of the greatest gifts of awakening is the recognition of our interconnectedness. We are not isolated beings. Separate and alone, we are threads in a vast, vibrant tapestry of existence. Every thought, word, and action ripples outward, touching lives in ways we may never see. This interconnectedness reminds us that awakening is not just a personal journey. It is a shared one. As we awaken, we create space for others to do the same. Our presence becomes a beacon, not through grand gestures or proclamations, but through the quiet authenticity of living in alignment with our truth. Awakening is not for the faint of heart. It asks us to face our fears, confront our shadows, and let go of the illusions that once felt safe. It requires courage, the courage to be vulnerable, to embrace uncertainty, and to trust the unfolding of life. But this courage is not without reward. Each step we take, no matter how small, brings us closer to the essence of who we are. Each moment of honesty, each act of compassion, and each surrender to the unknown adds depth and richness to our lives. Imagine a world where more people embark on this journey of awakening. A world where compassion outweighs judgment, where connection replaces division, and where authenticity is valued over appearances. This is not an impossible dream. It is a possibility that begins with each of us. As we awaken, we contribute to the collective transformation of humanity. If there is one message to take from this journey, it is this: awakening is not about reaching an endpoint. It is about being fully alive, open to the beauty and pain, the light and shadow, the joy and sorrow of existence. It is about seeing each moment, no matter how challenging, as an opportunity to grow and connect. Let us walk this path with humility, knowing that we will stumble and fall but also rise stronger and wiser. Let us approach each other with kindness, recognizing that we are all travelers on the same road, each carrying our own burdens and blessings. And let us celebrate the journey, for it is in the journey itself that we find meaning and fulfillment. To those who feel the call to awaken, take the first step. It doesn't matter if the path ahead feels unclear or overwhelming. Trust that each step will reveal the next, that the journey itself will guide you, and know that you are not alone. You are part of a vast, interconnected web of seekers, each contributing their unique light to the whole. As you move forward, may you carry these words with you. Awakening is not an escape. It is an embrace. It is not about becoming more. It is about being fully. It is not about finding the light. It is about discovering that the light has always been within you. Thank you for joining this exploration. May your journey be one of courage, connection, and endless discovery. And may you find, in the midst of it all, the profound joy of being truly alive.